the last boundary is skin. The first time Camilla saw someone without skin, she was standing in line at the Emotional Compliance Center, waiting for her monthly transparency audit. The woman ahead of her turned around, and Camilla could see everything: the delicate latticework of capillaries, the ivory architecture of fascia, the ruby chambers of muscle contracting with each breath. The woman's eyes, lidless now, caught the fluorescent light like wet stones. "Beautiful, isn't it?" the woman said. Her voice came from somewhere deeper than vocal cords, resonating through the visible structures of her throat. "I can finally breathe." Camilla's compliance chip, embedded beneath her clavicle, standard issue since 2089, pulsed twice. Discomfort detected, registering involuntary aversion response. The woman would receive a notification. Everyone Camilla interacted with would know she'd flinched. "I'm sorry," Camilla said automatically. "I didn't mean." "Don't apologize for what you feel." The skinless woman smiled, her teeth brilliant against the crimson cave of her mouth. "That's the whole point of this." She gestured to her exposed body. "To stop apologizing." The line moved forward. Camilla's chip recorded the encounter. 7:43 a.m. Visceral disgust, 6.210. Followed by curiosity, 3.810. Followed by shame, 8.910. By noon, the data would be analyzed, categorized, and added to her citizen file. By evening, targeted advertisements for empathy enhancement seminars would flood her vision through her corneal display. She'd been living like this for 12 years, since the Emotional Transparency Act passed. No more hiding. No more secrets festering in the dark corners of the psyche. Every feeling monitored, measured, made public. Relationships ended before bitterness could metastasize. Crimes prevented before impulses crystallized into action. A society, they said, without shadows. But the shedding, that was new. Dr. Yuki Khan, the architect of emotional transparency, appeared on every screen that evening. Her face was the same it had always been, serene, slightly amused, as if she'd just heard a private joke about the nature of consciousness itself. She'd won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2087 for developing the compliance chip. Some called her humanity's savior. Others called her the great unmasker. "We stand at the threshold of a new phase in human evolution," Dr. Khan said, her image projected across the city's buildings, her voice filtering through every neural interface. The compliance chips gave us emotional transparency. Now, a growing number of citizens are choosing physical transparency. They're removing the last boundary between inner and outer, self and other. The skin. Camilla watched from her apartment, 17 stories above the street. Below, she could see them, the shed moving through the evening crowds like living anatomical diagrams. There were more each day. Last week, maybe 50 in the entire city. Tonight, she counted dozens just in her field of vision. The procedure is voluntary, Dr. Khan continued. It's also irreversible. Engineered bacteria bacteria consume the epidermis and dermis layer by layer, painlessly, over the course of 3 days. What remains is a living human being, fully functional, but without the barrier that evolution gave us. Without the mask. Camilla's chip pulsed. Fear detected 7.110. Fascination 5.210. Her girlfriend, Renee, called. Her face materialized in Camilla's peripheral vision, ghostly and concerned. Are you watching this? Everyone's watching this. It's insane. It's body horror. Renee's chip would be recording her disgust, broadcasting it to her network. Tomorrow, she'd receive counseling recommendations for her strong aversion response. Why would anyone? To be free, Camilla said, though she wasn't sure where the words came from. That woman this morning, she said it was like breathing. Silence, then, you're not thinking of. No, God, no. Camilla's chip recorded the lie, the micro-hesitation before the denial. Renee would see it in her data feed within seconds. I just meant I understand the impulse. But Renee had already disconnected. The shed organized their first march 3 days later. They walked through the financial district at noon, hundreds of them, their bodies a collective anatomy lesson. Some carried signs. This is consent. My body unmasked, the truth beneath. Camilla stood at her office window and watched. Her colleagues clustered around, their chips all firing at once, creating a symphony of recorded response. Disgust, horror, awe, arousal. The data would be beautiful, she thought, a perfect map of human reaction to the transgressive, the liminal, the impossible. Her boss, Mr. Ockefer, stood beside her. His chip glowed steady green acceptance, neutrality, the emotional baseline of a well-adjusted citizen. They'll ban it, he said. The Transparency Council can't allow this. Why not? It's the ultimate transparency, because you can't unsee it. He turned away from the window. Emotional transparency works because we all agreed to the rules. We all wear our chips. But this, he gestured toward the marchers. This forces their choice onto everyone who looks at them. It's visual assault. Camilla's chip, agreement 6.510. Doubt 7.310. Suppressed anger 8.810. Maybe that's the point, she said. That night, she researched the procedure. The websites were clinical, almost sterile. The dermal liberation process, they called it. 3 days in a medical facility. Nutritional support, psychological screening, irreversibility counseling. The bacteria, bioengineered to stop at the subcutaneous layer, leaving nerves exposed, but protected by a clear, regenerating membrane that formed in the absence of skin. The testimonials were stranger than the medical details. I spent my whole life performing. The chip showed my emotions, but the skin still let me pretend to be put together, professional, acceptable. Now, there's nothing left to perform. My skin was the last lie I told. You don't know how heavy a boundary is until you remove it. Camilla's chip recorded every spike of interest, every flutter of possibility. She closed the browser, but the images stayed behind her eyes. Renee moved out at the end of the week. Not a surprise, their compatibility scores had been dropping for months, each emotional disclosure widening the gap between them. But the timing felt pointed. "I can't be with someone who's considering it," Renee said, packing her things while her chip broadcast her sadness, her relief, her guilt. Everything visible, everything recorded. Even thinking about it means something about who you are. "I'm not. Your data doesn't lie, Camilla." Renee sealed the last box. "You visited 17 shedding information sites this week. Your arousal response to the March footage was off the charts. You're fascinated by them. Fascination isn't the same as, isn't it?" Renee stood at the door, her face arranged in the expression of sad wisdom that people wore when they delivered truths validated by data. In this world, fascination is action. Interest is intent. You've already decided. You're just waiting for your conscious mind to catch up. After she left, Camilla stood in the empty apartment and felt her chip recording it all. The grief, the relief, the terrible lightness of having nothing left to hide. Because someone else had already read all your secrets and found them wanting. She looked at her hands, ordinary, deceptive, covered in the same flesh she'd worn her entire life. The boundary that made her discreet, separate, her own. The last private thing. She made an appointment. The clinic was quieter than she expected. White walls, soft lighting, the smell of antiseptic, and something else, something organic and slightly sweet, like bread rising. A nurse with skin checked her in. A doctor without skin explained the procedure. "Most people think it's about the visual," Dr. Reyes said. Her muscles moved like living silk, her heart visible as a steady rhythm in her chest. But it's really about sensation. You'll feel everything: air currents, temperature changes, the presence of other bodies. The world becomes immediate in a way you can't imagine or shouldn't imagine. Dr. Reyes smiled, her expression stark without lips to soften it. Both. They did the psychological screening. Her chip provided most of the data, every emotional response to the shed, every moment of fascination and revulsion, every fantasy of exposure and liberation. The AI analyzed it in seconds, approved for procedure. Psychological risk profile, moderate. Social integration concerns, high. You'll lose people, the counselor said. She still had skin, Camilla noticed. Friends, family, professional opportunities. Even with transparency, even with all our data, society still has limits. Lines it won't cross. You'll be on the other side of that line. "I'm already losing people," Camilla said. "At least this way, it's my choice." "Is it?" The counselor leaned forward. "Or is it your data's choice? Your chip knows you better than you know yourself. It predicted this moment 6 months ago. You're just fulfilling your own algorithm. Camilla stood up. Consent is saying yes, even when you're predicted to say yes. Especially then. She signed the forms. The bacteria worked slowly, deliberately. Camilla spent the first day watching her skin pale and loosen, like paint peeling from a wall. By the second day, it slewed off in translucent sheets, revealing the raw architecture beneath. The pain she'd expected never came, just sensation, overwhelming and immediate, as if she'd been wearing thick gloves her entire life, and only now felt the texture of air itself. On the third day, she looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. Not human exactly, but not inhuman either. Something in between, something true. The other patients, 7 in total, gathered in the recovery room. They'd been isolated during their transformations, but now they sat together, their bodies a symphony of visible life. Heartbeats synchronized in the quiet room. One man wept, his tears tracking down his exposed facial muscles. A woman laughed, and Camilla could see the exact mechanism of joy in her diaphragm's contractions. "How do you feel?" a nurse asked, making notes on her tablet. Camilla's chip recorded Euphoria 9.210, Terror 8.710, Exposure 1010, Relief 1010. "I feel," she said, and that was enough. The backlash was immediate. The Transparency Council called an emergency session. Dr. Khan gave another address, this one less serene, more strained. Voluntary physical transparency exceeds the parameters of social consent, she said. We've achieved emotional openness, but bodies remain private for a reason. They exist in shared space. They affect everyone who sees them. Protests erupted. Counter-protests formed. The shed marched again, this time with Camilla among them, feeling the city's air currents on her exposed nerves, sensing the proximity of other bodies like a new sense entirely. People stared. Children cried. Some citizens threw things, soft things, nothing dangerous. But the message was clear. You've gone too far. You've crossed the line. Camilla's chip recorded everything, as it always had. But now, with her skin gone, the data felt different. More honest, more her. A reporter approached her after the march. "Do you regret it?" Camilla looked down at her hands, the visible tendons, the working muscles, the blood poolsing through exposed vessels. "Regret is something you feel when you still have something to hide behind," she said. "I don't have that luxury anymore, but you chose this. I chose to stop choosing, to stop performing, to just be." The reporter's chip pulsed, recording confusion, discomfort, grudging understanding. "And if they ban it, if they make it illegal, then they're admitting the truth," Camilla said. That transparency was never about honesty. It was about control, about making sure we all revealed ourselves in acceptable ways. My skin, that was the last thing that was mine, the last boundary that was private. And I gave it up because I wanted to, not because some algorithm told me to. The reporter left. Camilla stood in the plaza, surrounded by other shed, feeling the evening air cool against her muscles. Somewhere, data analysts were processing her words, categorizing them, predicting their impact. Somewhere, the Transparency Council was debating legislation. Somewhere, Dr. Khan was reconsidering her legacy. But here now, Camilla felt only the immediate truth of her body existing in space. No barrier, no mask, no skin, just consent given freely to be seen exactly as she was. 3 months later, the council passed the Bodily Integrity Act. The procedure was banned. The shed were grandfathered in. They couldn't reverse what had been done, but no new sheddings would be allowed. Dr. Khan resigned. The protests continued, smaller now, mostly symbolic. Camilla found work at a research institute, studying the effects of the procedure on the existing shed population. Ironic, she thought, that they'd become the most studied people in history. But then again, they'd chosen visibility. Data was just another form of seeing. She lived in a community of shed now, in a building where exposure was normal, where bodies were just bodies, where the constant awareness of heartbeat and breath and blood created an intimacy she'd never known was possible. They developed their own culture, their own customs, ways of touching that respected the sensitivity of exposed nerves, ways of being together that acknowledged the vulnerability of the permanently unmasked. Some nights, Camilla dreamed of her old skin. In the dreams, she could zip it on like a suit, become discreet again, hidden. But then she'd wake in her skinless body and feel the sheets against her muscles, the air moving in her room, the presence of other shed in nearby apartments, all of them breathing, all of them visible, all of them free in a way the dream version of herself could never be. Her chips still recorded everything. Contentment, 7.810. Loneliness, 4.210. Certainty, 9.510. But the data felt less important now. It was just one way of being seen, and she'd chosen to be seen in every way possible. The last boundary had been skin, and she'd given it up freely, knowing she could never get it back, knowing that consent, real consent, meant choosing the irreversible and living with what came after. In the end, that was all any of them could do. Choose, and then exist, exposed and honest in the consequences of that choice. The world would adjust, or it wouldn't. Either way, the shed would remain living proof that privacy wasn't always protection, that boundaries weren't always safety, that sometimes the most radical act was simply allowing yourself to be completely, irrevocably seen. A year after the ban, a young woman approached Camilla on the street. She still had her skin, still looked like everyone else, but her eyes held that particular hunger that Camilla recognized, the longing for exposure, for truth, for the terrible freedom that came with removing the last mask. "Is it worth it?" the woman asked. Knowing you can never go back, Camilla felt the question settle into her exposed nerves, resonate through her visible musculature. Her chip recorded her response before she spoke it. Certainty, 1010. Peace, 9.810. Truth, 1010. That depends, Camilla said, on what you think you're going back to. She walked on, leaving the woman to decide for herself. Because that was the thing about boundaries. You could only know what they protected by crossing them. And once crossed, you could only know if it was worth it by living in the country beyond. The last boundary was skin. And on the other side of skin was everything else, the raw, painful, beautiful truth of being a body in a world of bodies, seen and seeing, without protection or pretense. Some people couldn't survive that truth. But those who could, the shed, the willing, the exposed, they discovered something that no amount of emotional transparency could provide. The certainty that came from choosing vulnerability, from making consent mean something more than just permission. They made it mean transformation. They made it mean irreversible. They made it mean free.